Roundtable. Here we go. I'll get the tweet out there. Alright, Ed, let me make sure they can hear you. Alright, Ed, let me make sure they can hear you. Yeah, I believe they got us both.
Alright.
If anybody at any time has a little bit of trouble, difficulty listening and hearing us, let us know.
Yeah, let us know, because I'm currently sitting in my van, warming up the van, waiting for my oldest daughter to come out here so I can take her to work.
Yes, sir. I'm just putting it out there so people know we are live. Brandon Ace is with us in the chat room. And unlike other shows, other channels, and other places, we don't have the ability to go all out, have a wonderful dealing show, and looking all purty and shit. All you get is our voice.
Just tell her I had to run the van,
My dogs happen to chew up my one microphone and headset that I use to do a Google Play chat, which prevents me from being able to do that. Now I can only do is live stream and have these shows through my phone, and I'll be providing a number for you guys to call into the show so that anybody who wants to get in. Spec Poo is in the house. What's going on, Mr. Davis? And like I said, you guys let me know if you can hear us so we can take it from there. Because what we'll probably end up doing is to make sure anyone and everyone can get involved. Is we'll probably end up doing a just a small segment per person type of thing. And then you'll get in the air, do your little talk, little whatever, and then we'll move on to the next caller. And we'll take it from there. Alright, we got it all shared out. Now, like I said, hopefully you guys won't have no problem hearing Ed talk, because like he said, he's on my phone. He's currently in the vehicle, taking the child to work. Live NFL Roundtable discussion with family involved. Because like I said, family first when it comes to us here at the SLS Gaming Network. We don't claim to be professionals. We really prefer the hangout too, but I repeat, my equipment isn't working for said option. So we're doing it this way. Plus this maintains it, keeps everything a little more controlled, because every time we did a Google Hangout, we'd have 4, 5, 6 people on the call and everybody's talking over top of each other. So at least with this way, we can control it. So Ed, where did you like to start this show?
Start wherever you want, bro.
Because I'm pretty sure, as a Cleveland Browns fan, you would love to go jump right into some Cleveland Browns discussion. You know? But before we do that, I'm going to do as I had promised. I'm going to give a shout out to the Oakland Raiders Report. You guys got to look them up on YouTube. Mitchell Renz, he's the host of the show. And quite frankly, dude's a beast. So you got to look him up. And you can also follow him on Twitter at MitchellRenz365. That's MitchellRenz365. Oakland Raiders Report. Check them out if you're a Raiders fan, which I am. Diehard Raiders fan. After all, my son's first and middle name is Marcus Allen, and my two youngest girls, I did want to name one Autumn Wind, but the wife was like, nah, that's good. Nah, ain't doing that. So, and as I was saying, we can get to your Cleveland Browns here. As a Cleveland Browns fan, I know you're stoked, but just how stoked are you right now?
Yeah, no. I have been waiting too long for this.
Too long, huh?
I'm not going to lie. I am going to be 46 years old. I have been a Browns fan since I was 5. Even when they weren't here, I was still a Browns fan. So,
Right.
yeah.
No.
40-some years of being a Browns fan, you know, a lot of people that's going to be listening to this don't remember when they were good in the 80s because they're too young or whatever.
Right.
I remember the good days. I remember when we were going to AFC Championship games every other year. We lost, but we still went.
Right.
You know, we were decent then. The fan base was rabid. It was nuts. That's when they started the dog pound. I mean, it was crazy. And then for the last 30 years, it's been awful. Awful.
Well,
The revolving door of quarterbacks, the revolving doors of coaches, the revolving doors of owners. It just, Browns fans have had enough. And then we get John Dorsey, and he starts making all these moves he's made. Holy crap.
well, I'll give you some comments.
I'll tell you the truth. When we traded for Odell, I cried, bro.
Well, I'm going to give you some comments coming in from the chat room. Not believing the Browns hype. They have a lot of talent, but there's too many egos. And as a non-Browns fan, let me comment on this.
How is there too many egos? Do you people not watch these teams?
Like I said, it's all media is what it is.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
People buy into the media hype. People buy into the media everything. And like I said, it is what it is. And that's what I said. As a non-Browns fan, let me say this. Not buying into the Browns hype, and there was a mention of not trusting the coaching staff. I've already told you straight up as a non-Browns fan, my only concern for your Browns is the coaching staff, because rookie coach, he's never done it before. How well is he going to be able to grasp it? 2, how do you not believe the hype when last year, despite going with a quote-unquote losing record, everybody knows it was a losing record, but that team was not even supposed to win but maybe 4 games if they were lucky. So they were already ahead of the curve. Now, do they take a step back this season with a new coaching staff? Or do they take steps forward considering they've added more talent than they could have imagined? Now, the egos, I'm sure that's a shot at a guy like Odell Beckham, who...
Okay, well, I'm going to say this. Who's never in trouble.
Right.
You never really hear a whole lot about him. He's had a few questionable things that he's done, but at the same time, he is 26 years old. He is still a kid, and he is still learning how to be a professional.
Well, here's a statement. I don't see their head coach as a leader of men, which I think they should have which is why I think they should have chose Greg Williams.
Really?
Here's all.
See what he did with that team. That team rallied around that guy. They love him. They want to play for him. But since people aren't used to who he is or don't know nothing about him, this is where they'll start to, oh, what can he do? He can't do anything. He's never done, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta love it.
Well, like I said, I understand the questions. You and I have had that conversation in private. I get it. To question egos drives me crazy because, like I said, I know that had to be an Odell Beckham statement. Every single wide receiver in this league that's worth a shit is a freaking prima donna. They're a drama queen. They're a diva. They think they are the shit. Every single last one of them or whatnot. So,
I'm here. Sorry, I'm trying to deal with my sons.
Right, and here's a statement. The only reason that Freddie Kitchens was named the head coach is because of Baker. Baker likes him, and I feel that a quarterback should never have a say-so. Well, let's be honest. I don't care the franchise.
Every quarterback has a say-so.
I.e. Ben Roethlisberger is a perfect point of how quarterbacks have a lot of power with their franchise. The franchises are built around the quarterbacks. Nobody else. And the quarterback's got a lot of say-so. Period. This is all there is to it. And like you said, these guys rallied around Kitchens. They wanted to play for Kitchens. Does that transfer into being a good head coach? Remains to be seen, obviously. Remains to be seen. We're going to find out, just like you said. But the talent is there.
You know as well as I do. Because you've played sports. I've played sports. If you play for a coach you like, you're going to bust your ass for that guy. If you have to play for a coach you can't stand, he's probably not going to bust your ass for him.
But,
And that's just how it is. No, Dwayne, you're not great. Say hello, everybody. Everybody on the radio, they can hear you.
And I'm gonna switch gears for a moment to my Raiders, and I want to mention this because there's a lot of questions on what my Raiders are going to be capable of, what my Raiders are going to be able to do, what my Raiders aren't going to be able to do, things of that nature. Same thing. It's going to all remain to be seen. There's still questions of whether or not they're going to put this team on Derek Carr's shoulders. I think this is a make-or-break season for Derek Carr in Oakland. And it's going to be prove to us we want to keep you next year because his dead money hits very low next season. There's no chance they're taking a quarterback in this draft unless it's later because they need some depth because Nathan Peterman just isn't going to cut it as the only backup. A.J. McCarron was let go, just signed with the Texans. We're building talent like crazy. I still want to see some depth at the O-line position. We need linebackers like crazy. And Vontaze Burfict ain't the call. That ain't the one. That ain't the need. So I have no desire to see him. And I'm getting a call here. We're going to put this caller on hold for a minute. So I'm going to answer the call. If they know they can hear me, no one knows me and put on hold for a minute. So I'm going to put you on mute for a minute. And I'll get to them here in just a second. We need secondary help. I mentioned this on the Oakland Raiders report with Mitchell Renz. He didn't get a chance to mention the question. But I've seen some mock drafts where the Raiders are taking DeAndre Baker and Byron Murphy, or a combination of two corners at 24 and 27. Not sure how I feel about two corners, considering we're adding LaMarcus Joyner. There's a chance we're going to add George Iocca here today. I don't believe that means Carl Joseph's going anywhere, because Carl Joseph, as far as I'm concerned, is underrated. I like that kid. So, all in all, when it comes to my Raiders, I'm hoping for 500. I'm hoping for 500. I'm not hoping for much more. All right, I'm going to go to the call here, Ed. All right, who we got on the call?
It's me, Chris, man.
Looks like we have Chris Davis. Chris Davis is with us.
Yep. What up, y'all? Yeah, to touch a little more, I don't know if you saw my question. How you feel about, Burfict to the Raiders? I found it, I was actually kind of stunned that they picked him up. I mean, I do know it's John Gruden, and he knows what to get out of his players. He knows what to expect. But this is still the one move that kind of
only thing I can say about Vontaze is, one, he knows Paul Gunther's system, so he can be a plug-and-play starter. But two, he's... I want to use the right word here. He's not the type of player you need on your team, because every game it's going to be a question of when's he going to catch you a 15-yard penalty at the wrong time. His production has gone down. I believe he only had 33 total tackles last season, which means he probably missed more tackles than he made. Like I said, the only thing, and he's not a veteran leader. I've seen that mentioned a couple places. Is he brought in to be a veteran leader for our linebackers? Nah, not even close. How can a guy like that be a leader? He's just not a leader. I didn't understand the signing. I didn't want the signing. We could have went out and signed a bunch of different players instead. I'd have much rather had a Houston at this position. Brandon Williams from Denver. I'd much rather have these types of players, but instead, we get this guy. Now, I hope he proves me wrong and a bunch of other people who've been saying what I'm saying wrong, but, yeah.
I hear you there, but, shit, yeah, it's kind of crazy, but this is what I do know. I mean, the two teams that, from last year, they record-wise didn't do as good. These Raiders and Browns, they both looking at least 10 and 6, 11 and 5 potentially this upcoming season, which is kind of nutty.
Good loud. I'm not going to go that high for my Raiders.
I mean, honestly, let's keep it 100. I mean, you picked up, both of y'all picked up top 5, arguably top 3 wide receivers in Odell Beckham and Antonio Brown. I mean, for the Browns' case, their defense, they have a pretty good defense. The only thing I would say, for me personally, that's still a question with them is their offensive line. I don't know if they're going to address it or not this upcoming draft. The same could be said. I'm going to say, in my case, each team, they really got very few holes left to really fill. Then after that, it's like, the AFC is going to be a fucking bloodbath. Brady's going to have a problem this year. Regardless if they make the playoffs or not, the whole AFC is going to be a bloodbath. I mean, you couldn't have wrote this any more better than that. Two teams been bad for quite a while. Some kids, two teams been bad for probably at least a good few years. The Browns, they divided the Browns no longer. So, honestly, I can't wait to see what this season is going to bring on the AFC side. Because the way I see the AFC's been a little bit weak the past, 3-4 years. It's almost been all Patriots. So, I can't wait to see what these two teams are going to do. The Chargers, they already solidified themselves, but they kind of choke come playoff time.
Right.
So, I can't wait. So, I don't know if y'all want to talk about the Eagles or not, to switch on to the NFC side. It's up to you guys, but I just can't wait to see what's going on with them, what's going to happen with them come draft time too. I mean, they sound some pretty good players.
I'm sure Ed will echo what I'm saying. If you got a topic you want to discuss, fire it at us.
Shit, if you're okay with that, there has been reports coming out talking about the Eagles. They like Josh Jacobs and shit like that. That we see his pro day runs a 4.6, I believe. Yeah, I think it was 4.6. So I'm like, well, here's how I see it. If the Raiders happen to get turned off by that, I'll be surprised. But other than that, I don't think it really moves the draft needle for the Raiders or the Eagles if they really want him that bad. He's still the best running back, arguably the best running back in this draft.
And he asked.
Because he asked, shit. Well, who else could they possibly see as a better running back than him?
Well, as I had said to you,
he's the only one I see that's looked at the first round. I don't see anyone else looked at like that.
Well, of course.
Unless it's Darrell Henderson.
He's not even.
Unless it's Montgomery, unless it's Sanders.
Not looking at
But those guys are second round talents.
I'm not looking at either of them guys.
Shit, who you looking at?
Rodney Anderson out of Oklahoma.
Shit, he be looked at in the third or fourth round.
Of course course he is.
I don't know why, but that's where it's going to be looked at.
He has injury history. That's why. If he can keep his injury history under control, he's gonna be the best back in the draft. I'm calling it now. Just like I went on record with you and told you, and I've told Ed and I've told other people, when all is said and done, Josh Allen will have a better career and be a better pro and have a better whatever than Khalil Mack. I've gone on record.
Get another call. Hold on, guys.
Yeah, I'm getting another. I think Ed was hearing my phone. I don't know, because I was getting another call and I couldn't answer the call because we're on the call with you at the moment. But yeah, like I said, to me, that's all I have to say about the draft.
Yeah, just really Josh Allen that can potentially have a better career than Khalil Mack, but I mean, who knows if he's gonna even drop to the Raiders? He might be gone before they even get the chance to pick him.
Right. That's why if the Raiders pick at 4 and Quentin Williams or Josh Allen is there on the board, they take him. If both are gone, they got to trade down.
You're right. Well, shit, that's all I see, man. It's all up to the Cardinals right now. And the Cardinals just made that report not too long ago saying that they're really looking at Kyler Murray right now. So, I mean, how I see it is right now, it seems like to us that they're really looking at grabbing this dude. Like, they really want to get him that bad. I'm sorry, I'm going to say this. I've never seen a coach with this much power. And he hasn't even played a game yet. He hasn't even coached a game yet. I've never seen a coach with this much power coming from college, and he gets all that power just to say, you know what, I want to trade Rosen, I want Murray.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm back.
All right, good deal. I'm completely okay with a head coach coming in and saying, let's get rid of the guy we got, let's get this guy. Because as a head coach, you're going to have a system. And for your system to be successful, you need to have your pieces. And what he's doing right now, it'd be like being a chef. You enter the kitchen and you're trying to cook the meal that made you famous, but you got to use the ingredients that somebody else has. You have your own ingredients to your own steak dinner, if you will. And for him, Kyler Murray fits his system better, fits what he's trying to build. So you don't want to build around a guy that don't fit your system, because what it's going to do is it's going to set you back. So he needs to be able to get the players he needs. And if that means Josh Rosen's got to go, that's the whole thing when you change coaches. The old regime's the old regime. Everybody can go, from coaches to players. Now, it's a shame that they traded up to go get him last year just to get rid of him this year possibly. And I know if I'm Josh Rosen, I don't want to sit on the bench behind Kyler Murray. I want to move on. And I believe without a shadow of a doubt, there's going to be several teams that want Josh Rosen. And I believe there's going to be teams like Pittsburgh. I believe it's going to be teams like New England. These are teams that are going to want him so they can bring him in and mold him to their system while their current quarterbacks ride out their last 1, 2, maybe 3 years in the league. So they can mold him to what they want so he can step in and take over. That's my belief.
I'm going to tell you this right now. Josh Rosen in the Patriots system, it'll be almost like Brady never left. I swear to you, that for me personally, that would be the last thing I'd want to happen. That'd be the last thing everybody would want to happen. You don't want Josh Rosen on the Patriots. You better at least have him on the Steelers. You have a better shot of being the Steelers with him there than you would with him with the Patriots.
Yeah.
Like, that's just me personally. Because he already got the accuracy. He already got to turn that stuff down. The only thing he really need to learn how to do is learn how to protect himself. And you know, with him being over there with the Patriots, he's definitely going to have that because their system is built for them to get rid of the ball fast. So, and just check downs, and more check downs.
Right.
So, you know, that's how I see it. I don't want him there. But yeah, if they're really committed to being Kyler Murray, it's really going to be interesting to see what team, like you said, it's really going to be do. You can do three-way calls, but I'll go ahead and hang up from here and let him say what he got to say.
All right, sounds good. Mr. Chris Davis joining us. We'll get another call in here in a moment. So, Ed, any thoughts?
Nope.
Well, let's see. Getting the call from the 410. Who we got with us this time?
Take a large guess, Doug.
It sounds like Mr. Brandon Williams.
Yes, indeedy.
What's on your mind?
Wait, what was that?
What's on your mind?
Everything. Everything.
All right. Well, give us the topic you want to mention.
Well, let's start with the Ravens.
Okay.
Okay.
What is your?
Okay. How do you feel about the free agents they got? How do you feel about the free agents they got?
Me personally, I feel they have more work to do. They lost, in my opinion, their leader in Weddle. I think they lost their emotional guy in Suggs. They lost their best tackler in Mosley. They lost their sack leader in Za'Darius.
Okay.
Now you bring in a guy like Earl Thomas. Let's see what he can do. He's coming off a very bad injury. If you get the Earl Thomas of old, it's an upgrade. It's a huge upgrade. But you still need to bring in more talent to that defense because, you and I have had our conversations, and I'll mention it here on the air. I am not a big fan of Lamar Jackson. I don't believe Lamar Jackson is the quarterback some people try to put him out to be. I've watched him play one too many times where he forgets he has a check down. I've watched too many games where he doesn't go through his progressions. He eyes that number one receiver. He's not there. He takes off. Now, what he does well, he does extremely well. And what he does good, he does really good. That's what makes him somewhat dangerous, if you will. Now, if he could complete his game, it's going to be a very bad situation for the league. But his game is just nowhere near where it needs to be, and they need to get him talent. Every piece they put on his offense is going to improve him, and that takes me back to that defense. That defense made him who he was. And what a lot of people want to say is, he was this and this as a starting quarterback. Yeah, he lost one game, and I think he won 5 or 6 games. But nobody wants to point out the fact that he played horrible defenses. The best defense he played all year was like 23rd or 24th in the league. At the time he took over, he played the worst teams he could play. And he still struggled offensively to beat them. He still struggled offensively to get yards. He still struggled as a quarterback to do what a quarterback needs to do to be successful against some of the worst defenses the league had to offer. And let me pat my Raiders on the back. There's only one game Pittsburgh lost down the stretch, and that was to the Raiders. If Pittsburgh wins that game, the Ravens don't make the playoffs. So the Ravens got in the playoffs off the luck of a shitty Raider team, and that can't be denied. And it wasn't because of what Lamar Jackson was able to do. That had nothing to do with it. He stepped in at the right time against the wrong teams and was able to be semi-successful, and semi is a stretch because that defense was so special, and now it's gone.
Okay. I want to get to the free agent losses.
Okay.
First, with Eric Weddle, it was going to happen because we kind of want to move into a younger direction, and he is getting up there in age. But I am grateful for what he did for Baltimore, and I really hope he does well in Los Angeles. Now with Za'Darius Smith, here's the thing. He wasn't really a starter. He was a rotational pass rusher. Yes, he had some
has some good games, but there are sometimes he disappears, and you don't even notice he's on the field.
Now think about what you just said about him. Let's just say all that's fact. He's still your sack leader.
Yes, but here's the thing. Like, yes, I understand, but he was a rotational pass rusher, and the problem with him was he wasn't consistent. I want a pass rusher who's consistent, or if you're not getting to the quarterback, at least get some pressure. There are times that he didn't, and Green Bay gives him all that money to become a full-time pass rusher. Now, I hope I'm wrong, because I do want him to be successful, but I just don't see it. Now, when it comes to C.J. Mosley, yes, it sucks that he's gone, but I'm not giving him $17 million.
Well, no.
And like you said, he said he's good against the run, but you know he's a liability in pass coverage. He's meh, but he's bad. He's just bad at pass coverage.
And that's the case with every player. Every player's got their strength. Every player has their weakness, especially on defense. Every guy, they're either good against the pass or good against the run. It's very, very, very rare they're very good with both. And what he did good, he did really good. So that was the thing. What he did really good, and that's why him being quote-unquote suspect against the pass goes unnoticed, because his abilities against the run are just ridiculous.
That's true, but here's the thing, like, yes, he's good against the run, but the only reason he was able to get those tackles is because, well, we have two big defensive linemen. Like, their job is to make sure the linebackers don't get hold by the offensive lineman. And I kind of believe that the two linebackers we got, Kenny Young and Peanut, I think they can do a good job. And I think they're more better in coverage than Mosley is. And also, I do agree, like, we are missing our pieces. Like, our secondary, if Earl Thomas can be healthy, it's going to be dangerous. We got the corners. My biggest thing is pass rusher. Now, there are a lot of people and a lot of Ravens fans in the draft wanting a wide receiver. For me, I'm looking at pass rusher, but I'm just looking at it, I'm like, all the good pass rushers are probably going to be gone by when we get there.
Well, here you go. Let's put it this way. Take what you just said about your defensive line. If what you just said about your defensive line is 100% accurate, that means the linebackers that are going to step in and play are going to be just fine because of the defensive line. This is a defensive-heavy draft, especially with linemen. You're going to be able to get linemen in the second and third round that last year, the year before, even up to 10 years ago, would have been first-round draft picks or second-round draft picks, meaning second-round picks would be first, third-round picks would be second. It's going to be that good. And then it takes us back to my statement. You need to help Lamar Jackson.
And that's the thing.
And if you don't pick offense, to develop him, then that's a horrible decision. That's a horrible decision.
I agree, and I think we're probably going to go offense with that first round, which I don't agree. I do agree. You know, a lot of Ravens fans that want that boy from Mississippi, what's his name, Moncrief, because of what he did at the combine and all that. Like, okay.
Oh, Miss DK Metcalf?
Yeah. Okay, yes, he's a physical freak. He's gifted, but I want a football player, not an athlete. I want a guy who can play football.
Well, I'll tell you this. DK Metcalf is not an athlete. DK Metcalf is a big-bodied wide receiver with speed. He has little to zero agility, which means he's not an athlete. His agility is horrendous. Most of the tight ends did better than he did in the cone drills.
And that's
he can just fly.
And that's the problem with Ravens fans. They look at that like, I'm trying to tell them, remember Rashad Perriman? Look at how that friggin' turned out.
And DK Metcalf's not going to last to later in the first round. He's going to go possibly as high as top 10 somewhere.
Yeah. A lot of people, I know a lot of Ravens fans, there's been a lot of Ravens fans but there's another wide receiver that I think people have not talked about, Hakeem Butler, who is a Baltimore native.
Yes, I'm a very big fan of Hakeem Butler, and I want to say this to you. As I mentioned, you got to get him weapons. Now, I believe you guys are set at tight end.
Yes, I agree.
You got, and I'm going to go from the bottom up. Max Williams, Mark Andrews, Hayden Hurst, Nick Boyle. Pick your poison. I like all four of them. And, of course, all four can have their own inconsistencies. All four have their flaws. But as a unit, I like them. Now, as a Baltimore Ravens fan, if you guys took the field today, do you know who your starting wide receivers would be?
Chris Moore and also a bunch of guys who we drafted last year.
Chances are your starters would be Willie Snead and Jordan Lastly. Believe it or not. And Chris Moore would probably be in the slot. So you got Jordan Lastly, Willie Snead, Chris Moore, and probably Nick Boyle would start tight end. That's not enough weapons.
I can see that.
For Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I can trust Willie Snead and Chris Moore. I kind of feel like Chris Moore deserves a shot to start. But we do need that big body wide receiver, or at least a receiver that can get separation and, most importantly, catch the goddamn football. Because here's the thing about Ravens fans: we have been looking for a wide receiver who can goddamn catch. You have no idea how many times we have to deal with wide receivers who can't catch. It's been a pain.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. Let's put it that way.
I do, but also, there is a guy in the draft that I have my interest who could be a steal.
Uh-huh.
What's that boy's name? He's a pass rusher from Louisiana Tech. His last name is like Ferguson.
Oh, you said he's from where?
He plays for a team called Louisiana Tech last year. He broke Terrell Suggs' sack record.
Louisiana Tech. Why does that name slip in my mind? I have to actually check my notes. I'm forgetting who you're talking about. His name's right at the tip of my tongue.
That's understandable.
What's that kid's name? You're interested in him.
Yes, because he broke Terrell Suggs' sack record. I think and a lot of people ain't talking about him, and I think he could be there in the third round. We don't have a second round pick. Let's just hope he's there by the third, if we can get him. And also, I look at our other pass rushes like Matt Judon. I think he's gonna break out this year, and I think he's a lot more better than Zadarius Smith because he's better in coverage and he can rush the pass and stop the run. That's another thing Zadarius Smith couldn't do, was stop the run. Matt Judon can, and I hope we lock him down because what Zadarius Smith got, what do you think Matt Judon's gonna ask? And then we got guys like Tim Williams and Tyus Bowser who really need to step up this time. But I think Tyus Bowser should play inside linebacker because I don't know if you don't see him, but he knows I watched his tape in Houston. He's very good in coverage, and I'm like, he has what, in my opinion, he's pretty much similar to Jimmy Collins. He can rush the passer and he can cover. And I feel like we need to use him like that. Okay. And then when it comes to Tim Williams, like, I really want him to step up because he's supposed to be that pass rusher, that pass rushing specialist that we've been looking for because you pretty much saw what he did at Alabama. The man can get to the quarterbacks with ease.
And I'll mention this since you brought him up. It's Jalen Ferguson. He's 6'4", 255, and I will give you this. And here's why he's not quote unquote being talked about where some people think, because he's the FBS leader in sacks. I think it's 45 now that he has, breaking Terrell Suggs. The kid's long armed. He's got powerful hands. He can bully offensive tackles, but here's the thing: he's a face-up pass rusher. He has very little flexibility to bend on the edge. He's going to have to win with power at the next level, which is a much tougher task than people think, especially when he's coming out of non-Power 5 offensive line games. He's likely going to have to get a wide array of pass rush moves in order to make it work because of what he is. So at the end of the day, the summary on him more or less would be there's going to be some risk. His power game may or may not translate to the NFL because obviously the guys in college are nowhere near as strong as those in the NFL. So he's clearly going to have to get stronger. But he has a motor. He does have power. And he can get production. It's just enough, is there enough to where he can make it work in the NFL? At least he could be a quality number 2 pass rusher at the next level, probably. But I can't see him ever being a 1.
And I wouldn't mind that because one thing about us, we are very good at developing pass rushers. Like before Darius Smith, look what we did with Pernell McPhee. He got a big paycheck when he left. Like we can develop some good pass rushers, and I think if we can get him and bring him up to his true potential, I think he can be that guy. I'm not saying he can't. I'm not saying he won't be able. I won't say he'll replace Terrell Suggs because. He can't. No one can. I don't think no one's ever going to do that. Not in this lifetime. But I feel like he can be that pass rusher. But that depends if we draft him. Because I feel like he'll be the steal of the draft. It'll be the biggest steal.
Right. Guess we'll have to wait and see.
I want to talk about the AFC North and all that, pretty much all this nonsense about this Brown type that's been annoying me. Because, yes, they got all the players. They got OBJ. But here's the thing. How many of those guys have playoff experience? None. Well, wait, hold up. No. Like Jarvis Landry and OBJ, they had playoff experience, but they lost in those games.
Yeah, well, there you go. You just answered your own question.
And here's another thing. Like, yes, they got all this talent, but they have egos. A lot of people. OBJ has an ego. Cause have you not seen how he was? Like, let's be honest. He has a temper. He has an anger problem.
That's called passion. That's called desire to play and win. That's called the desire to want to be successful.
So you remember the Josh Norman thing?
An ego is a guy that goes out there and acts like he's better than everybody else. And that's not something Odell Beckham's done. See, the media will spin whatever they want to spin. That's why we get a lot of things in the media that we get. That's why we get a lot of things mentioned outside of sports, just in general. The media will make the society eat up at whatever they want you to believe. They don't put out there that Odell Beckham will stand outside the Giants facilities and sign autographs for all the fans, especially the kids, before any other Giant player. They won't mention the fact that he's there first, he leaves last. All the Giant players, when they left New York and were asked about OBJ, they all said he was an ideal teammate. He was an ideal guy in the locker room. He was an ideal friend. And it was like, where does all this negativity come from when the media wants to talk about it? All the media wants to talk about is that you see that guy act like a maniac and punch the kicking net or whatever the hell he did to it until it comes back and attacks him. Odell Beckham has never been in trouble to the point where it's like he's a cancer. You don't see him in the news every day getting arrested, this, that, and the other. What you see is a guy with a lot of desire, a lot of passion, and he isn't afraid to express, I want to win. And he's never once thrown his quarterback under the bus.
Hey, Dougie.
Yes.
Don't forget what he did for Kim Jones.
Yeah. She was going through a major illness. And he reached out to her to make sure she was okay, made sure everything was doing good, if she needed anything. And this is just an analyst that hardly many people talk about or even know, because quite honestly, I didn't really know much of her until that story broke about what she posted, what he did for her. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that at all. But that's the real Odell Beckham.
Okay, I can understand that aspect. But again, people overhyping Cleveland like they just won the Super Bowl or won the AFC North. I'm like, hey, Ravens won the AFC North, idiots. Listen, yes, they got talent, but here's the thing. Do you trust their head coach? A rookie head coach, do you trust a guy who is about to be their head coach? And the only reason he got the job is because of Baker. Now, I don't think the quarterback should not have an opinion on who should head coach be.
All 32 starting quarterbacks have their say. All 32 quarterbacks have an opinion that's actually listened to by the higher-ups and the brass of their team. It's just the way it goes. Now, you sat there and you said the Ravens are the division champions. Again, they're the division champions off the win from another team. That's fact. 2, their team has been depleted much more than than Cleveland's. On paper, Cleveland is head and shoulders a better team than Baltimore right now. Head and shoulders better.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to be better when you got a lot of freaking cap space.
Well, you gotta learn how to control your cap pace then. That's Baltimore's fault.
That's where he's going? Because the cap space, really?
You gotta know how to spend your money.
Our team was smart enough not to spend money, and you gave a quarterback how much money, and where's he at now? Oh, that's right. He's in Denver.
Yeah.
We're gonna have we're gonna have a lot of cap space next year.
It's just like I'll word that. We want to talk cap space. Let's be honest. And it takes me to the Khalil Mack trade. Everybody ripped into the Raiders for the Khalil Mack trade. If anybody is still on that train, you're an idiot. Because the Raiders...
I don't think I'm an idiot. Like,
no.
You give OBJ all that money. I'm like, hold up. You give OBJ all that money because you win Khalil Mack that money? I'm like, bruh.
No. The Raiders already proved.
Here's the thing. Khalil Mack is a generational talent.
But the Raiders already proved.
Someone like him.
You not understand that? The Raiders have already proved that they made the right choice. They've already proved it. And I'll break it down for you in case you didn't see it. Okay? He wanted the same type of deal from the Raiders he got from Chicago. So long story short, we'll round the numbers off. $90 million in guaranteed money was basically what he was looking for from the Raiders. So let's say you're an owner. You're the GM. You're a coach, whatever. You tell me which one you'd rather have. And I don't want to hear all this generational bullshit because it's irrelevant. You get $90 million and you drop it on Khalil Mack. Okay? The Raiders spent $97 million. That's $7 more million in guaranteed money. And in the process, we got Trent Brown, LaMarcus Joyner, Tyrell Williams, Antonio Brown, and 2 first-round draft picks. Yeah. That proves the Raiders were smart in that deal. And if anyone continuously believes that, knows jack shit about football.
Well, here's the thing. The only way that the deal will be good is the Raiders make the playoffs.
Don't have to make the playoffs. They don't have to make the playoffs because what that did is they signed, let's do the math again, $97 million to $90 million. So for $7 more million, you get 2 starting wide receivers, a starting offensive tackle, a starting defensive back. This is 4 starters, plus you get 2 draft picks. And that means you said they got to work. Let's put it honest. Say Khalil Mack doesn't work because at any moment his abilities could go. At any moment he could get hurt permanently. All that money now, boom, dead cap space on one guy. If any of these 4 guys don't work out, it's broke into parts. It's broke into pieces, which means it's a little harder to deal with, a little easier to deal with, a little easier to overcome, and a little easier to get straightened out. You don't put all your eggs in one basket, and that's what you'd have done with a guy like Khalil Mack. And while in Chicago, did what for Chicago? Nothing. Nothing. He's hurt their cap space so bad that they've lost starters from that defense, and they will continue to do so over the next 2 seasons. Signing Khalil Mack has ripped apart the heart of their team, which is their overall defense. That's all it did. And the Raiders were not going to allow that to happen to them. They just weren't going to do it.
Okay, and also about the Trent Brown signing, I'm not sure why you're getting happy about that. Like, like we see New England,
You
we
say
see how
because
New England free agents are outside New
I'm
England.
serious. I'm
Either
cutting you off.
average or trash.
Because he was in New England, and he ain't going to be able to do it because of Tom Brady. You're an idiot because this is an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with the quarterback.
Right.
Has nothing to do with it. This is a line. This is a whole. The linemen are whole other animals.
Right. The linemen are whole other animals. The quarterback has nothing to do with how good or bad a lineman is. The linemen.
Like, come on.
No.
New England knows what they're doing when it comes to free agency. They're not gonna overpay for guys,
That's fine.
young guys. Like, they know what they're doing.
There's where you're oxymoron yourself. You're saying they're smart, they're not going to overpay for guys, but then you're saying the Raiders are stupid because they don't overpay for a guy. Well, it can't be both. You're either smart for not overpaying or you're smart for overpaying. It can only be one or the other.
But you made Terrence Brown the highest paid left tackle.
He deserved it. He proved.
Just wait how bad he is because
He's gonna
be he's a product of New England's system.
Go
Brady
watch.
gets the ball out quick. Derek Cole
Oh my
can't do
God.
that.
You're a moron.
You gotta watch football, brother. You gotta watch him in the playoffs. You gotta watch him against the so-called best defensive lineman in the game because he dominates them. And I don't want to hear the ball gets out quick because he's dominated them. On plays where Brady's holding that ball 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds, them defensive ends ain't getting nowhere near close. The outside linebackers aren't getting nowhere near close. He demolished people, and he's a baby. He's a baby. He hasn't even come into his own yet. Now, like you said, a product of the system. Did he benefit from the system? You don't know that to be true. I don't know that to not be true. We'll find out. Because the system can work for one guy or another. This is fact. I can agree with you on that. But to sit there and say that the system is what made him so good when he dominated defensive linemen, no, he still needs skill to do that.
Okay, if that's the case, why did the 49ers let him go and send him to New England?
Because he was a baby. Like I said, he's still developing his game. And when the 49ers let him go, they didn't need him. They did not need him. They didn't even give him the opportunity.
Now, I want to continue with the AFC North of another team that I don't know what the hell is going on, which is Pittsburgh. Like, what in God's name are they doing?
And I'll say Mike McGlinchey is another reason. They drafted him. They wanted to let him go.
Makes sense. Now, I want to talk about Pittsburgh. I'm like, I don't know what's going on with them. Like, it seems like that
I'll tell you what Pittsburgh's problem is.
Crashing town.
I'll tell you right now what Pittsburgh's problem is. And if anybody disagrees with it, you're all idiots. Their problem is number 7.
Of course that's our problem.
He's got an ego bigger than anybody that we've talked about. He thinks that team is his team. And he can tell them what to do, when to do it, how to do it.
That goes to my statement.
He rubbed a lot of his teammates the wrong way.
And that goes to my statement. Quarterbacks have a lot of power, or have a lot of weight, and have a lot of say-so when it comes to their teams.
I mean, this is the guy, and go watch the film that deliberately fumbled a ball during a game because he was mad at the coach. But this is Ben Roethlisberger. Mr. I raped how many women, got away with it, and my organization made me get married to keep me out of trouble.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That is a Cleveland Browns fan saying Ben Roethlisberger had an arranged marriage, and his evidence, it's hard to deal with. I love it.
Look at the facts.
Oh, I did. That's what I said. It's hard to argue.
Within weeks after getting in trouble, Ben's getting married. And then not too long after that, she's pregnant. We're having a baby. I'm sorry, but it's just too damn convenient for me.
Oh, I know. That's what I said. It's hard to argue when you break it down. It's really hard to argue.
And honestly, it's not just because he's a Steeler. I would have said that about anybody that's done the same thing. It would have been anybody else in the league, and it was like if it's too convenient, then something's wrong.
Right.
And like I said, go look at the film. Look it up on YouTube. I've been been listening to all kinds of stuff about it, and everybody is coming out now saying, well, we can't say we did, but we can't say he didn't either, so...
Right.
So right there, that tells you, he did something.
Oh, yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is putting yourself above your team, your teammates, and not giving a shit. You know, they want to play this little happy thing going between him and Tom. Him and Tomlin don't get along. That's a fact. I don't give a shit what Steeler fans say, what anybody else is. Those two guys don't like each other. Right. You can see it. They both have the mentality that it's my team, which Tomlin has that right because he's the head coach. It is his team. You're a quarterback. Play the damn game and shut up.
Right. I know Mr. Davis wanted to call back in here for a second. So let's see what he has to say. Go ahead, Mr. Davis.
Hello?
Yeah, we got you.
Alright. I hear you now. Yo, I want us to talk about the draft. Can that be a thing?
The draft?
Yup, you're my draft, buddy. That's what I've been waiting for. That's what I called back for. That's something I'm sure everybody, is looking forward to here. I mean, the free agency was one, but we gotta talk about, this draft, honestly, the most unpredictable draft.
Right.
Probably like the last 5 years. So
let me throw this out there.
All right, what do you got, Ed?
Dougie and I have been friends now for what, over 10 years?
Right.
Because we got into wrestling stuff together, and then we started talking every day. I can honestly tell you without a shadow of a doubt, this guy, when he says somebody's going to draft somebody, 9 out of 10 times they do it. He has been consistently better than Mel Kiper. He's been consistently better than all those other jokers. He knows his stuff, and I'm telling you, I've been telling him for years, he needs to start putting this stuff on YouTube, putting this stuff everywhere, because he needs to have a job in the NFL. He needs to be an analyst, he needs to be something, because he is good.
I appreciate it. I try.
I just want to throw it out there, because there's been stuff over the years you tell me, I'm like, what are you talking about? And you said, I'm telling you, it's going to happen, and damn, almost everything happens. It's insane.
Yeah, I try. Like I said, I try.
And then, of course, there's going to be people say, oh, you're just saying that because you're his best friend and all this shit. I'm saying it because I've seen it. Chris Davis has seen it over the last how many years?
Right.
It's insane. So if anybody's watching this that can get this crap to the NFL, get this to the NFL teams, please do, because this guy deserves it. Because I've never met anybody that loves football as much as this guy does. He studies more film, more tape than anybody I know because he's just insane.
Just a little bit.
I think you could, honestly, I think you could help a team find players. I'm serious. So, like I said, I don't get nothing out of this except for the fact that if he ever gets a job, I can say, hey, I know that guy. That's the only thing I get out of it.
Oh, man.
Fucking shit, man.
Like I said, I try. And and since Mr. Davis is asking for my quote-unquote updated mock, I'm actually working on it this week, and I'm planning on posting it probably Sunday or Monday of next week. That's probably when it's going to go up. I was hoping to post it this week, but out of nowhere, we had a few more signings and a little bit more speculation, so I figured I'm going to hold off, because if I didn't, my whole mock could be a waste of my time. And I do want to mention, since we're talking draft, Dwayne Haskins had his meeting with the Giants and the whole brass. Like I said, they went out to dinner and the whole 9 yards. And he plans on meeting with the Broncos, Dolphins, Washington, and the Raiders to finish out his week.
Damn.
That's a busy trip.
Wow. They're all in Columbus to see him, so he ain't going nowhere.
Oh, that's good. You don't have to go nowhere.
Right, they just had their, and I want to point this out about Dwayne Haskins.
Was his pro day today?
Yeah, his pro day was today, and he completely stopped the damn thing when Paris Campbell went down to make sure Paris was all right, showing that he's a leader.
That's a fucking teammate.
You know, he's like, yeah, I'm here to prove my stock. I'm here to prove my worth. I'm here to get drafted. But hold up, y'all motherfuckers can wait. My teammate just went on the ground. I gotta take care of him first. That's a leader.
That's a leader. Nobody will call that.
He's only a what?
Only a sophomore.
Yeah, he's only a sophomore.
Should have stayed in school.
I agree. I wish he would have. But I think he's got a few things he needs to work on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, go get yours, young man. If you can get it, go get it.
Yep. Ain't never gonna get mad at somebody who's making $1. Get what you can.
Get it.
Hopefully he'll finish his education while he's in the league.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But like I said, I'm never gonna fault a guy for gonna go get his money.
No. Yeah, so
Man, look, I ain't mad at that, most definitely. But Doug, I did ask like who were. Well, I did talk about the running backs, not for order, but I do want to talk about who you personally think is gonna be your sleeper at every position in this draft, if you can.
my sleeper at every goddamn. He said sleeper at every position.
Every position. Now, the turn of your draft knowledge. It's definitely one way of doing it.
Out there.
Sleeper at every position. All right, well, you gotta give me a minute to grab my notes because I haven't wrote down.
I'm sure you do. Yeah, like I said, this guy is nuts. I'll call him, and I'm like, what are you doing? Watching film. Wow. You know me. I love it. He said, I like to see who's coming up and who's going to be good, who's not, and if I can predict who is and who isn't. I love it. I'm like, dude, you're insane.
All right, now, I believe I have it in this one. All right, here's my sleeper. I'm going to go position by position
All right.
and hopefully uninterrupted, and I will tell you why for each position. All right, sleeper at quarterback, Tyree Jackson, Buffalo. He's a raw slinger. Jackson's able to launch 70-yard rockets with a simple flick of the wrist. If allowed to sit and develop for a few years, he could develop into a starting quarterback with all the twos. So, that's that one. Running back, sleeper, Rodney Anderson. I already said it. Injuries robbed him parts of all 3 of his seasons in college, but when he's healthy, Anderson proved that he can showcase his overall skill and that he is good as in any back in any draft class. Kaboom. I said any draft class, not this draft class, any draft class.
Wow.
But his injuries is a major red flag, so I get teams backing off on him, and his injuries scared the shit out of me too. So, but like I said, you can't coach up injuries. Wide receiver, he's already starting to get on boards because of his 40 time, and that's Andy Isabella out of UMass. He's a blazing speedster. He possesses a track background that enables him to get to the next level and burn the secondary, and linebackers cannot cover this kid. He also runs solid routes and has dependable hands, which is a huge plus.
Wait, he runs routes and he can catch?
Yeah.
Damn.
Man, you don't see that much anymore. Tight end, sleeper, Drew Sample, Washington. He's an impressive combination of blocking and pass catching. Should easily turn out to be a TE1 at the next level. He presents a great blend of size, athleticism, and toughness. Yes, and Drew Sample, by most people's standards, is probably going to be like a round 2, 3, maybe 4-round draft pick. And he's 6'4", 251, by the way. All right, moving on to the offensive tackles. Sleeper, and he's really climbed up boards, and he's almost going to be a first-round draft pick anymore, so it's kind of unfair, but this was what I had wrote down a month ago, and that's Andre Dillard from Washington State. When he went into the Senior Bowl, there's rumblings he could become a top 50 pick, basically. And he's a dark horse candidate to make the first round. Like I said, I think he might. On some of my mock drafts, I had him going 17 to Cleveland because I think he's that damn good. and I think he can be a mid-first round pick, and people are still sleeping on him. And just for a side note, I have Jawan Taylor out of Florida as my could disappoint. Just wanted to throw that out there. All right, moving on to the guard position. And you know Chris Davis is going to go back to this show and listen to all my sleepers in about 5 years and see how well I did.
Yeah. If you keep this video up in 5 years, I'm probably gonna look back.
Yeah. My guards out of Arkansas is Halate Froholt. He's from Denmark, people. He's been flying under the radars going into the draft. He has versatility and strength. And I think he's going to be a huge asset to any team that picks him up. Let me look right here. I have it wrote down. Where's he at? I just got to find his numbers and I can give them to you. Where the hell did I write him at? He's on one of these fucking little sheets here. 6'4", 315. I have him wrote down as a potential 5th or 6th round draft pick. But he's my 5th or 6th, and I got him as my sleeper. And as you were talking about how I'll mention guys, this, that, and the other, as I get to centers, Chris Davis can verify this. I had Mr. Garrett Bradbury in my first round when no other so-called expert was even talking about him, and this kid dominated the combine.
He did. He was talking about that dude like crazy. All of a sudden he goes to the combine, shows his shit, and every draft analyst is like, oh shit, he gotta be first round potential. He gotta be in the first round. There's no way you can see him slip. So, it's most definitely interesting to, see how he called that shot.
All right.
And everyone else they come up later.
Center, Eric McCoy from Texas A&M. He just needs to become a more consistent snapper out of the shotgun. He has occasional lapses where he screws that up. He can be easily avoided by the more agile linebackers in open space, and sometimes will miss a second-level assignment because of his slow feet. But all that can be coached up. That's why he's a sleeper. God, why do I know these things? Where am I at? Defensive ends. Let's see. Sleeper. I have Anthony Nelson out of Iowa. He was overshadowed by other athletes in the class. He held up well in the Senior Bowl if people watched, showing off his length, his strength, his technique, which helped him boost getting a lot of tackles for loss, and sack numbers all over the past 3 years. But he's going to go under the radar, like I said, because of how deep the class is. But like I said, Anthony Nelson, Iowa. And let me see. He's 6. Get this. He's a defensive end. He runs a 4.740 for a defensive end. He's probably a late second, early third. He's 275 and he's 6'7".
That's crazy.
And like I say, he's my sleeper at the defensive end spot. Moving on to my defensive tackles. My sleeper at the defensive tackle spot is Renell Wren out of Arizona State. That's Renell. Last name is Wren. Wren didn't even emerge as a starter from the Sun Devils until former NFL coach Herm Edwards took over in 2018. But his shocking combination of size and explosiveness is very certainly intriguing. And he's 6'5", 320. And he's going to be a 4th or 5th round pick. It took Herm Edwards to come in to really see what that kid was capable of and utilize it. And the kid did extremely well as a senior, and that's one of the things that hurts his draft stock is because he played 1 year. All right, moving on to inside linebacker. You've got Jahani Tavai out of Hawaii. I probably butchered his name.
No, this guy I definitely have not heard of at all.
He's 6'3", 245. He's a 7th round projection by most people. He comes with laundry list of red flags to consider, but he plays very good. I evaluate him to a guy who, if he gets in the right system, is very coachable. That's why he's a sleeper. He's got to get into the right system. And no Hawaii, I'm going to say this, and a lot of people don't know this. Nobody from Hawaii has been drafted on defense since 2012.
That's bad.
No Hawaii defensive player has been drafted since 2012. He's going to break that streak this year. He will get drafted. It'll probably be in the 7th round. because of his red flags. And if you don't know about his red flags, look him up. It's Jahlani. Jahlani, and his last name is Tavai, I guess how you say it. Tavai. So that's the inside linebacker. Outside linebackers. I love saying his name because I really don't know how to say his name, but his last name spelled the same thing twice, and his name is Sione Takitaki. I do not know how to say his last name ever. It's Taki. He was labeled a troublemaker. He matured since he got married. His combination of size, he's only 6'1", 240, and athleticism turned heads during the East-West Shrine game and the Senior Bowl. If you caught those games, you know who I'm talking about. He's probably a fifth-round player. His character red flags are going to show. That's what's going to make him drop. And he's probably going to be fifth-round pick. Without the red flags, he's probably a third-round selection. Corners. Going into the corners, my sleeper is Joequan Williams out of Vanderbilt. There's question about his straight line speed, but teams looking for a long physical corner who protects, similar to Seattle's standout Trey Flowers, will want to check out this little individual known as Joequan Williams, or Joequan, how the hell he says his first name. I don't know the way people spell their kid's name, 6'2", 208. And he's a high 4'4", low 4'5" guy, and he's got all the tools. Going on now to safety, my quote-unquote sleeper at the safety position is Marquise Blair out of Utah. With less than eye-popping production over his career, Blair is virtually unknown outside of the Pac-12, but he boasts an intriguing combination of size and speed to suggest that his best football could be ahead of him, and I believe it is. Marquise Blair, by most people's standards, he's probably not even in the top 10. He runs a 4.5 40, 6'1", 200 pounds, and yeah, there you go.
I did read up on the guy that you told me to look up, which is the guy from Tavani. I did look up on him. What the fuck are you doing? Sitting up there, getting arrested in June at a Halloween nightclub. Like, bruh. And on top of that, you missed the season with the shoulder injury. So those are some major red flags right there. Make no mistake.
Now,
But
he's in college. And Ed can back up this statement. Ed and I have always said that if we were in the NFL, we played football, we would enjoy our time in the NFL by staying at home other than being at games and practices because it just ain't worth it. And when you're in college, you know, if you're not on the practice field at a game or in the freaking classroom studying, you should be in your dorm room staying the fuck away from everybody. Just stay out of trouble. Because you're going to give up the opportunity possibly to lose millions of dollars in your life if you're at least a halfway decent player. Just behave yourself. It ain't that hard. I mean, you see NFL players throwing away millions. Millions. Look at Kareem Hunt. Threw away millions for a lapse in fucking mind because where are you at? Where are you at? You're at a club. You don't need to be in no damn club. You got money. You can bring the club to your house. You know, put your own bar in the basement and stay out of trouble. You know, and granted, he did something that most men, whether they want to admit it or not, would have done. You know, he kicked that fucking bitch for her mouth. She wanted to act like a man. He treated her like one. She wanted to have some disrespectful comments. He gave it back to her. But it was a wrong thing to do. And because of who he is, it's put into a bigger spotlight. And then you got Tyreek Hill, supposedly breaking his child's arm. You know, what for? You're possibly now going to lose out of millions of dollars. You know, I don't get these guys' way of thinking. I don't understand them. Just behave, be you, do you, stay out of trouble. And by the time you're 35 years old, you've got more money you know what to do with. And sometimes even before you're 30, you've got more money you know what to do with. I'm going to be 42 this year, and I've never made probably over $20,000 in a year. So, I mean, shit. Get your shit together, boys.
Can't blame you there, man. Hit the nail on the head. But, yeah, man, it was nice definitely having to do the draft talk. I can't wait to hear about your next mock draft and see what's going to happen now, because you did say that you were going to wait till the second wave of the free agency and then do it over again. Now, I don't know if the second wave is particularly over yet. I don't have no idea right now. It does seem kind of quiet now. But, yeah, I can't wait for this draft, man. Like, each week we get closer and closer to this shit. Each week.
Yeah.
And each week we get more and more patient and wondering, like, oh my god, who's going to go where? Who's going to go where? I do want to touch on one more thing. If I had to give one sleeper for me personally, and I wouldn't necessarily say he's sleeper because he has high second round, because he's already going to be in the second round. I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on Daryl Henderson from Memphis because of his home run ability. Now, I will say he apparently does some vision issues, but it's not to say that can't be worked out. That's just me. I mean, vision can be taught, right? So it's like, the way I see it, that man should, just for how he's built. Now, it'll say that he's at least around 205, 209, but he's a lot more thicker than what you would normally see from a guy that's normally 205 or 209. So, I can't wait to see this draft. I can't wait. So till then, I'll definitely catch y'all later. I mean, I can't wait for the next podcast to have yourself for this.
Well, there you go.
Alright, Dougie, I gotta jump here. I gotta go deal with these kids.
Yep.
Yep, I see that. What's the name? He wants to get back in, so I definitely want to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, like I said, we can look. Like I said, we got the draft. The draft is Thursday, April 25th at 9 o'clock, which is absolutely stupid. 9 Eastern, ladies and gentlemen, in case you did not know that. The 84th annual meeting of the National Football League franchise to select the newly eligible players in Nashville goes live at 9 p.m. on a Thursday night. What in the blue hell was the NFL thinking with that one? And then it'll continue on the 26th and the 27th. Oh, my goodness. It makes no sense. Now, I'm going to say it right here, right now. I'll be calling off work that night or have somebody replace me that night. But I'm definitely not missing Thursday, April 25th. The Raiders sitting there with 3 first-round picks. Very well could be more. Like I said, the ideal dream situation as a Raiders fan is that the Raiders, 1, get Josh Allen at the 4 spot, and if he's not there, able to trade back, collect more picks. I've heard rumors that Green Bay wants to give up the 12 and the 30 to come up to 4. It's going to cost more than just the 12 and the 30. I've heard that the Giants want to give up the 6 and the 17. It's going to still cost them more to come up to the 4, believe it or not. There's all kinds of stuff. The Raiders might give up a 3 and a 5 to Chicago to get Jordan Howard. And I'm going to give Mr. Brandon Williams about 5 minutes yet, because then I'm going to be ending my stream here. So, Mr. Williams, you're back. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, what's on your mind?
Pretty much. I'd like to talk about the draft as well.
Okay.
Is Doug here?
That's me talking, buddy.
Oh, my bad. Now, you say how many picks the Raiders got?
They have the 4th, the 24th, and the 27th.
Okay. What is your percentage of the Raiders getting all the right players with these picks?
Well, that's just it. 1, they got to finish their free agency. I don't think they're done in free agency yet. I have no idea how many more players they're going to get, but come draft day, we'll know what the roster looks like. As of right now, they need to get defensive end. I like Arden Key. I like the rotation of Hankins, Maurice Hurst, and P.J. Hall in the middle. I like that. So we really don't need a defensive tackle, but if a guy like Quinnen Williams is there, you got to take him at 4. I think Josh Allen, like I said, I've said it and I'll say it again, Josh Allen's going to be a better player than Khalil Mack. I'm saying it over and over and over again. I just see it. He's bigger, better, faster, stronger. All the things that made Khalil Mack special and made him who he is today, Josh Allen's coming out of college better, in my opinion. And he went to a tougher school, Kentucky to Buffalo, played against better competition, quality opponents, which is going to prepare him to be more ready for the NFL. And like I said, and it's a big statement. It's a big statement. It takes a lot of balls to make that claim. But you got to go there. But either way, when they pick it for, I'm figuring it's going to be a defensive player. So let's just go to the 24 and the 27 pick. Those are the ones that are really going to be the fun ones to answer your question properly. If we don't sign Jared Cook, Lee Smith is not the answer at tight end. He's more of a blocking guy. We need that tight end that can help stretch the field a little bit. And that's why A.B., J.J. Nelson, Tyrell Williams, and Jared Cook still on the Raiders is an absolute nightmare for any secondary in the league. Any. Because Jared Cook can stretch the freaking line or the defense out just like any wide receiver can. But I'm going to go under the assumption he doesn't come back because I just don't see him returning at this point, and I hope he does. I really hope he does. At the 24 or the 27 pick, if Noah Fant is still on the board, which he very well could be at that point, he becomes a number one opportunity player. He becomes a huge option. If he's gone, I don't know if they need to go for like an Irv Smith at those positions because he could be probably the next guy up. There's a few other options.
What about that corner? Because can you name your starting two?
Definitely need to get a corner. And I've seen several mock drafts, and I mentioned this during Mitchell Wren's podcast, the Oakland Raiders Report. And again, you can follow Mitchell Wren's on Twitter at MitchellWrens365. I've seen several mock drafts where the Raiders are taking any combination of corners. And like, for example, DeAndre Baker and Byron Murphy, 24 and 27. I don't know about taking two corners at 24 and 27, but at the same time, I get it. At the same time, I understand it. And I believe as a Raiders fan, one of those picks probably needs to be spent on a corner. I would believe that. So as of right now, the way the team is shaped up, as of right now, let's say no more signings take place. They need to get a defensive end, a tight end, and a corner. Those would be the three key things. Or any combination of defensive end, linebacker, tight end, corner. That's where having the 35th pick helps. That's where when you go into the 24th and the 27th pick, you can have the ability to take the best player on the board at any of those positions, or you can take another guy knowing that the other positions are a little deeper. And the people can ask me which position's deeper, and quite frankly, it's really up to the franchise which position's deeper, which position looks best for them. Because you can go to Team A and they think the corner's the deepest thing in the draft. The next team might think is the inside linebacker. You never know. But we got to hit those four spots as of right now. So that's defensive end, linebacker, tight end, and a corner. And that's probably going to be our four picks at 4, 24, 27, and 35. That's why I said if Josh Allen's not sitting there at 4, even if it's Queenan Williams sitting there, I'm almost tempted to trade the pick and move back. Because then we can hit all those positions and some with another selection. Because that's just it.
Okay. You talk about Quentin Williams and Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't mention Nick Bosa in that picture, like.
Because he's not going to fall to 4.
Mm-hmm.
He won't fall to 4, not a chance. Let's just say sake
of argument.
Whatever
he does.
Let's say sake of argument. Sake of argument. Kyler Murray goes 1. Okay, Kyler Murray goes 1. If the 49ers sit there with 2 with Bosa on the board, are they going to take him? Let's just say for fun, they don't want the edge rusher, they want the tackle. So they take Queenan Williams. The Jets will not take Bosa.
I would agree. Like the Bosa, like the Jets' defense is good, but they don't really have a pass rusher.
You know, and let's put it this way: the Jets will not miss out on taking Bosa if he's there because he's got a lot of hype behind him. I believe Josh Allen is the number 1 player in the draft. I believe Quentin Williams is number 2. I have them both ranked higher than Bosa. But Bosa's got the hype. more than those guys. So he's going to be the
Well,
guy number one. So if he's
well-
still sitting there, like I said, at 2, 3, somebody will trade up to get him if the Jets don't.
Well, the reason he's hype is because, well, look what his brother's doing.
Well, I'm not going to do that. I think he deserves it himself. And I believe, like I said, I don't think he's as good as people think. But at the same time, I'm going to give the kid credit. And I think by the time he gets into the NFL, especially if he gets put in the right system, he'll be better than his brother.
Yeah, that's what everyone says.
You know, but he's got to get in the right system.
Hell, a lot of people, a lot of Ravens fans say we should trade to get both. I'm like, no, we can't do that.
No, because you need to keep all your picks. In fact, you guys should try to get more picks.
That's what I meant. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of see us trading our first round pick to get more picks. I kind of see that happening.
Yeah.
We don't got a second round, so we're probably going to trade that first round to get more picks.
It's very possible. You guys are sitting right in that prime position where a lot of teams in the low to mid second round like to trade up to get back into the first round. And in return, you guys end up with a second round pick and then another pick probably next year, which would be a 1.
Yeah. Again, but it all depends who's available. Who's available at the Ravens pick? If the player is there with the Ravens at, I think we'll get him. If not, chances are we're trading. But there's one thing that the Ravens have always been good, and you cannot disagree, is we are very good at fighting those hidden gem players in the later rounds.
Well, that's before. Think about it. That's what I'm saying. That was before. You know, Eric DaCosta's not the man.
I think he is. We gotta give him a chance. Like, I'm willing to give him a chance. Ravens fans were losing their minds during free agency, but DaCosta wasn't doing it. I'm like, chill. And that's the thing that irritates me about Ravens fans during free agency and the draft. I'm like, God damn. I thought Patriots fans were worse, but I'm starting to think Ravens fans are just worser.
Worser.
Because when it comes to free agency time, they want to see us go after these big name free agents. Knowing most of those years when we had Flack, we didn't have the money. Like, people, but God, if you think Ravens fans are going to be crazy, this free agency, just wait until next year because we're supposed to have like a lot of cap space and Ravens fans are going to lose their mind. Oh, we need to sign. This is why I hate free agency.
So you're going to have a lot of cap space. Is that what you said?
Yep, we're going to have
Well,
at least 90 million in cap space.
Well, I can tell you right now, you guys are sitting on 17.4 million in cap space, and based on your way your franchise looks right now, and what players are going to be gone, you're sitting on 99.1 cap space next year. And the number one team in cap space right now for next season is the Cowboys at 117 million.
Yeah, at least we're not like the Cowboys because they gotta Zeke's gonna want his money, Dak gonna want his money, DeMarcus Lawrence, Byron Jones, Jalen Smith,
right?
Them boys gonna want their money.
So, like I said, that's projection, of course, for 2020. It's just a projection, of course, in 2020 where those at, and who's the last place team in the league next year in cap space? Do you know? Based off current projections.
I think it's going to be somewhere between the Eagles or Chiefs.
No.
Or Pittsburgh, because they're going to have dead money.
The Eagles will have 30.6. The Chiefs will have 58.1. And the Steelers are sitting at 63.3, which puts them around mid-pack with the Chiefs. Now, the Eagles are in the bottom 5, but the team that's going to have the worst amount of money is Chicago with 14. And that has a lot to do with the Khalil Mack trade.
Sweet Jesus.
They only have $14 million in cap space, and they're going to have more starters whose contracts are up next year that they're not going to be able to resign, and they'll be able to re-sign due to one player. That's why I say you can have a once-in-a-lifetime player, but that once-in-a-lifetime player is not all the be-all, the ends-all, because one guy can't do it by himself. You need players around him, and now they're not going to have them because they lost guys this year. They've lost free agents this year on that starting defense because they couldn't afford to bring them back. Next year's going to be even worse. And that's the scary thought when you sit back as a Browns fan. Bears fan.
Makes sense. Another question. Do you think the AFC East is going to be more competitive?
Jets are still going to be the Jets. Just because they have Le'Veon Bell doesn't do anything for me. Just because they signed C.J. Mosley doesn't do anything for me. But as a whole, they should be a better team. And I think they'll be a better team. And for the Jets to be a better team, we're talking 5-6 wins. So, irrelevant. Miami, a lot of people think Miami's in tank mode because they want to get Tua next year. I don't know. They signed Fitzpatrick. And chances are Fitzpatrick's going to have Fitzmagic in September like he always does. Miami might go 2-0, 3-0, and everybody's going to be like, oh my God, MVP, Ryan Fitzpatrick. And then once we hit October, he's going to hit the wall. And then maybe October will become Brocktober for Miami, and Osweiler will start. That's just Fitzpatrick's history. And he's always bad luck for the other quarterbacks on the team for some reason with his curse. So Miami is going absolutely nowhere. And then you take Buffalo. Buffalo has not made a lot of big moves, but they've made several moves. I like to see Buffalo trade for John Ross out of Cincinnati because I know he's on the board for being, on the trade block. And his ability to stretch the field, all Josh Allen's got to do is put that ball up and let him run underneath it. Kind of like they say Wentz is going to do with Deshaun Jackson. We'll see how effective that is. But, as I said, they didn't go out of their way to sign mega major players. But what they did is they signed good players, and they signed many of them to fill a lot of holes. But they're still way behind New England. They're still way behind New England. I can see New England going 10-6 to 12-4, and the rest of the division being under 8-8.
Oh, please. 10-6 for New England? New England fans would consider that a disappointment.
Well, they've lost a lot of key pieces.
Yeah, New England's used to this. You don't think Bill Belichick knows what he's doing?
They've lost a lot of key pieces. Not like this before. They're losing starters that were key pieces to their Super Bowl run. They're hard to replace. But now, like I said, it is New England. They get their credit where it's due. They've done a lot of this. They've been down this road before, so it's hard to knock them. But at the same time, it's a new season. It's a new roster. It's a new regime here with who's in the depth chart. We'll have to see if those guys can be plug and play starters.
But again, you still have Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. As long as you got those two, you're good.
Maybe. And I always say maybe.
True, but this whole another thing that kind of irritates me. I'm gonna ask you, who do you give the credit to the New England dynasty to? Because in my opinion, I give it to Bill Belichick.
Well, I'm gonna answer his question as I hang up because I got to get ready to wrap this up. So I'm gonna hang up with you as I answer your question. I credit the Patriots dynasty to one thing only, and that's asterisks. And the reason why I say the asterisk is because every single time they win a Super Bowl, there's an asterisk involved. Every single time. You got Spygate. Okay, that was one. You got Deflategate. Now this year they've got Tailgate with Kraft chasing ass. Ha! Not that had anything to do with it, but I'm just saying, 9 times out of 10, there's an asterisk involved with why they were successful that year, why they did what they did, why they were able to do what they do. There's a lot of suspect calling in their games that get them to the Super Bowl. But from the officials, and it's undeniable facts. People will sit and argue it that are Patriots fans, but that's because they're Patriots fans, and they say people who aren't Patriots fans make the shit up. I get that argument, but at the end of the day, New England is a question mark to me as to what made it successful. How did it become successful? People say Brady's a system quarterback. We don't know that because we never seen him play anywhere else. But I get it. Just like people are saying Trent Brown's a system lineman. I don't see linemen really being system linemen. I've never heard of that in my life with an offensive lineman. Defensive linemen, linebackers, running backs, things like that. Yes, I've never heard someone say an offensive lineman's a system player in my life until Trent Brown got paid. So it is what it is. But I will let you guys know, I plan on trying to do more of these as often as I can as we lead up into the draft. Trying to make this channel get things involved when it comes to the draft, free agency, and things like that. I would love to do these often. So, like I said, we'll try and get this channel to grow. And if we can get this channel to grow and get more and more people to tune in, check us out, we're going to do these things. But I'm going to wrap it up. Got time for me to go do my fatherly thing, get my children off the bus, make some dinner, do those things. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you were entertained by it. Leave some comments after the show. Some questions you might not have gotten to ask or you would have liked to ask, and I'll see if I can answer them for you. And look for me to post information in this. Follow us on Twitter. The link's at the bottom of the screen, SL Studios _. Check us out. I'm posting stuff all the time, and I'm hoping to put my new mock draft up by the beginning of next week. So, for that being said, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm out of here. This is the SLS Gaming Network. See ya.